government purchased 40 million doses from Moderna, up to 76 million doses from Pfizer, and 24 million doses from AstraZeneca. When those doses arrive, though, has been a big focus here in Ottawa after hitting some delays in deliveries last month. Should Canadians expect any more disruptions? Patricia Gauthier is Moderna's manager in Canada. She's with us from Toronto. Hi, Ms. Gauthier. Good to meet you, and thanks for making the time tonight.
Hi, thank you for the invitation. Very nice meeting you.
Before I get into questions about the delivery schedule, which I know are front of mind for many Canadians, I just have to ask you about this news out of BC, the idea of delaying the second dose of Moderna by 4 months. What are your thoughts on that?
So we've been very clear about the fact that our product monograph is based on a 4-week timeline or delay between the first dose and the second dose. This is what was approved by Health Canada, and this is what is supported by our clinical trials. So the Moderna position is to support alignment to the product monograph. That being said, we're in times of pandemic, and we can understand that there are difficult trade-off decisions to be made, and I think this then becomes a government decision. So we stand by the product monograph approved by Health Canada, but government, is also of the, can make their own decisions.
Is your company studying at all the efficacy of one shot or delaying the second shot even longer? Like, is there any data being collected on that idea and whether or not it would be safe, for example, to spread out more broadly than just BC?
At this point in time, I'm not aware of any studies being done or led by Moderna on this specific topic, but we always continue collecting data. And as you could see last week, we did announce that we would be conducting clinical studies on a booster program and a primary series as well that would include the new variants from South Africa. So always trying to stay at the forefront and study different vaccines or combinations.
On that note, what do you know right now about the efficacy of Moderna when it comes to those new variants?
So in vitro studies, the Moderna vaccine has been shown to maintain a very high level of neutralizing titers against all the different variants that were studied. That said, against the South African variant, it's been shown to maintain a high level, but it decreased by 6-fold, while still being above what would be expected for protection. So right now, it's shown, we believe it is efficacious against the variants. That said, out of an abundance of caution, we do want to continue studying and trying different variants as the virus continues mutating as we move forward. So we want to stay again at the forefront of it.
And in layman's terms, when you talk about a booster shot, so are you studying whether or not a booster shot of the Moderna vaccine might help make it more effective against the variant, particularly in South Africa? Is that accurate?
So it's a great question. We're actually doing 3 different strategies on the booster. We will be studying the current strain of the Moderna 1273 vaccine, so a booster shot of that at 50 microgram. We'll be studying a booster shot of the South African variants at 50 microgram. And then we'll be studying a booster shot of the current Moderna vaccine we have combined with the South African variant in a 50 microgram dose as well. So different combination here to help us inform the best way forward.
And how long will that study take? How long before you know about the effectiveness of those 3 different variations?
So we are just starting and we're engaging with regulatory bodies about the clinical studies, protocols, and we shipped some doses to the NIH in the US for them to conduct their own studies as well. And Moderna will be conducting as well our own studies and generate our own data to inform our regulatory strategy. So it's too early for me right now to comment on the expected timelines of readout, but we are definitely, this is something we're prioritizing.
So say the day comes, the study's over, and one of those 3 or 2 of those 3 prove to be effective, and they aren't already part of the deal that you've made, let's say, with this country to procure the vaccines. Would this be outside? Like, would Canada have to renegotiate with Moderna for booster shots in the future?
So there's a lot of speculation in here. We are in constant discussions with the government and the different stakeholders in government. And once we know more about these studies, we will definitely discuss what that means for our commitments to the government and Canadians.
And when it comes to those commitments, as I mentioned off the top, certainly a lot of scrutiny over, and not just with Moderna's vaccine, but the delivery schedule. There were some disruptions. Can you clearly identify for Canadians watching, like, why there was a slowdown in the delivery schedule last month? And second part of my question is, should we be okay to go forward? Like, do you expect any further disruptions?
Yeah. So maybe I'll start with taking a bit of perspective here. So not even a year, well, less than a year ago, the pandemic was declared. Less than a year ago, we didn't have a vaccine. And Moderna, I can tell you, did not have a global supply chain. So when I look at this, it's quite phenomenal where we're at to this day. We have ramped up significantly our supply chain to produce vaccines in incredibly large quantities. We've been able to deliver 700,000 doses of vaccines to Canada up to this point. We will be delivering on our commitments for Q1. And we're ramping up and we're continuing to increase our output through the supply chain. So I think we're on very good track to continue increasing our deliveries over time and meet our 44 million doses commitment to the Government of Canada before the end of Q3.
Okay, and what I wanted to clarify was basically, and I think you explained it to a degree, with the Pfizer vaccine, for example, we were told, okay, there's a delay in the deliveries because we're retooling for manufacturing to scale up. Is that what was happening with Moderna? That basically the supply chain had to be revamped so that you could supply the quantities necessary?
No, there was no revamping of the supply chain. It was more of a ramp up of the supply chain, a ramp up of production. And then, producing vaccine is a very complex undertaking. So then it's just business as usual. And then you have yield that will differ from one batch to another. But it was really more around ramping up or production in the supply chain.
And understandably, you're going to meet your commitments for Q1. I just want to be clear again for our viewers and for provinces who are listening especially, will you meet your, do you anticipate there will be any weeks ahead where, for example, or shipments ahead where it goes down a lot and then back up, or do you think it will be a reliable supply throughout the next 3 or 4 months?
I am very much working very hard for a reliable supply. Again, as we're ramping up the global supply chain, where it's hard to predict 4 months in advance how many doses we will get in a very specific week. So we're looking at this by quarter, but I think we are on a very good trajectory right now with good increase in production to continue delivering incremental doses to Canada as we move forward.
I guess I should rephrase. Do you anticipate there will be anything like what happened last month, where it basically went down to none for a while?
So what happened last month was it didn't go to none for a while. We had to adjust the quantities that had been forecasted. So we tried to forecast a month and a bit ahead, and we had to adjust the quantity. So we didn't go no supply for some time. We've committed to having supply coming in every 3 weeks. And for 2 of these shipments, we had to adjust the quantities
while being than anticipated.
Yeah, it was less than anticipated. But again, these were forecast throughput from the supply chain. So I think as we're ramping up, these adjustments are sometimes necessary while remaining committed to the overall delivery that we're looking for per quarter.
So it could happen again, but you remain committed to meeting the quarterly commitments. Is that accurate?
Exactly.
Okay. Thanks, Ms. Gauthier. Pleasure to meet you. Thanks very much for your time tonight.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too. Patricia Gauthier is Moderna's manager here in Canada. From Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.